This is an absolute steal for the Toronto Blue Jays, and while they struggled offensively for most of the season, they are finally starting to pick it up. But multiple new rumors and reports have dropped surrounding a Toronto Blue Jays trade. We're going to break down exactly what this is and who this is, and discuss what it means going forward as things are really starting to escalate. We also have multiple other updates ahead of tonight's game. Tons to get into, ladies and gentlemen. Before we get into it all, quick reminder, hit that subscribe button. If you're a part of the 71% who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Jays content. Your guys' support has been unbelievable. I want to thank you guys personally. Unbelievable. The Jays obviously struggling a little bit up and down here and there, but you guys have been absolute beasts on the channel supporting. So thank you guys for that. Ton to go over today. And we're going to be having weekly live streams. Stay tuned for those as well, starting, very, very soon here, most likely in the weekend. But ladies and gentlemen, a ton to go over today. Now, the Toronto Blue Jays are in an interesting spot. Reports are starting to pick up now. We're still, months away from, or a little, a fair bit away from the trade deadline. But rumors are really starting to pick up here. And you can see here, could the Blue Jays start seeking upgrades for the left field position at the MLB trade deadline? And there's a bunch of different articles here that I want to dive into. And there's a specific player that was dropped in a recent report. Fortunately, the AL appears to be rather weak so far. It is very, very true. The Orioles struggling, the Red Sox struggling. The Toronto lineup is underachieved based on talent that they have. Some key players like Santander, Jimenez have yet to get going with their new team. What is a need for the Jays? Joel Reuter, a Bleacher Report, recently wrote about the biggest need for the Jays, and that is, of course, left field. Due to the lineup being somewhat lackluster so far, obviously starting to pick up now. If Toronto is going to be buyers, it would likely be a corner outfield spot that they look to acquire. And it's interesting because we're going to be diving into an outfielder in a minute here. With the team using both George Springer and Santander in left field, of course, it opens up spots here for that. And upgrading in left field feels like a logical position. Lack of production from Allen Roda and all these different things. Now, there is some, something to be said. Things are starting to pick up a little bit. I want to dive into one player in particular, and that is right here. The best fit for Toronto, the most intriguing name in the market for the Jays is longtime Angels outfielder, but longtime target linked to the Blue Jays, Taylor Ward. He has 1 year left of arbitration, and the Angels are looking to move off of the veteran outfielder, according to this report. He's under contract for $7.825 million in 2025, and we'll see a raise in 2026. Great fit for Toronto. Adding Ward would give the Jays their starting left fielder for the next 2 seasons. And the reason I think this is such a steal for the Toronto Blue Jays is not necessarily because of how good he's been this year, but is because this would be the time to buy at his absolute lowest if you are a Toronto Blue Jays fan. You can see here this year, he has struggled mightily. Negative .2 WAR, all these different things. He's a 637 OPS. But ladies and gentlemen, I have full faith that Taylor Ward, who's been an above average hitter since 2021, would 100% be able to turn it around and will turn it around. I mean, we've seen countless guys being able to, turn around their seasons. Taylor Ward is playing on a very bad Angels team. This is a guy that I think makes a ton of sense for the Jays. Now, is he, and here's why, and I'll explain it. You're probably looking at the stats saying, okay, this is not the masher that we need. The realistic option here and the realistic scenario, Ross Atkins is not going to go out via trade, at least most likely, and get some huge jaw-dropping name, at least right now, right? At this point in the season, whether it's in, now, the next few weeks, whatever it ends up being, these are going to be guys that you maybe buy low on, and they're not going to be the blockbuster names. Do I think the Jays are going to be involved in blockbuster players? Absolutely. At this deadline, you are near the end of Ross Atkins, Mark Shapiro's contract, all these different things, Bichette. But if you want to make an upgrade like sooner rather than later, you would be looking for a guy who, yes, has been very bad this season, but he has 10 home runs in 41 games. He would, at the very least, he hasn't been able to hit the ball, for contact or average or on base percentage or anything like that, but he's hit home runs. Yes, he's below average, OPS wise. But if he can even start to hit the bat a little bit here, or hit a little bit, and he will not cost much. A couple prospects, maybe 20-ish range, whatever it ends up being, especially because he doesn't have much, fit left on his room left on his contract. You could get him for cheap, and he hits for power, something that this team continues to desperately need. And he, mashes lefties as well. And you can see why the Angels would do it if you're curious on their side. In Rucker's article, it brings up Ward as a name that could be on the move. Tyler Anderson, Taylor Ward, and Luis Rengifo were all popular names in the room last summer, and all three are trade candidates once again this year after staying put. And of course, Mark Feinsand correlated with that, and I like it. I like the fit, and again, it's not going to be a groundbreaking fit. His best season was in 2022 when he put up an 833 OPS. Like, he's at 750 to 800 OPS guy historically, but he's hit 10 home runs, so he's having his best power year of his career. I wouldn't mind, and you think about, the Jays outfielder right now, it's kind of, varying on a day-to-day basis. They have Addison Barger. Where would you fit Taylor Ward? An outfield of Taylor Ward, Dalton Varsho, and George Springer with Santander as a DH is very solid to me. And obviously, the counterpoint to this would be Nathan Lucas. He has been playing really good baseball, so do you really want to take him out of the lineup? It's a fair point, but I think for a long-term solution here, this report is fairly interesting to me. And I'm not saying that he would make a crazy, crazy difference to this team. But I think if you can get him for very low, it's always nice to acquire guys at their lowest value. And that's why I think it could be a steal for the Toronto Blue Jays if this report comes to fruition, because you're not going to have to give up, many assets here. Now, the opposite side of it is Nathan Lucas, albeit he's a lefty, has been tearing the cover off the ball. His OPS is higher than Taylor Ward's, all these different things. I think if you want an everyday left fielder, I have more faith in Taylor Ward than I would Nathan Lucas. But at the same time, you can still make the case that, hey, they don't need a guy like this, and you can go out and maybe make a bigger splash. But, I mean, you're thinking about where this team would need to upgrade. Like, left field is the obvious spot. It starts to clog up the DH a little bit. Third base is obviously another obvious spot there. They've been playing Addison Barger, who's been playing very well. Of course, Ernie Clement there at second base. All these different things. It is a very interesting scenario that this Toronto Blue Jays team is in. And ultimately, it's something that makes sense for both the Angels and the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, most likely they'll wait a little bit, before pulling the trigger on this, but it makes some sense. And we know the Jays are going to be looking to upgrade. And again, I can't stress enough here. They're one game below 500. They're 2.5 games out of a playoff spot, or whatever ends up being 3.5. They're in a fine spot if they want to go in and go all in. And Keegan Matheson, he was on a video prior to the season starting, basically saying, hey, this Toronto Blue Jays team, if they are, iffy even on, near a playoff spot, they're going to be going and making some big moves to try to propel them, especially given Ross Atkins, Mark Shapiro, all these guys last year's, Bo Bichette, Chris Bassett. So it's going to be a very, very interesting time. And let me know down below what your thoughts are on this. I'm curious to see what you guys think, because obviously a part of you, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people saying we don't need him, Nathan Lucas is better. But I think the upside of Taylor Ward with just 10 home runs already this year could be something that if you start to get his back going, you can get him for very cheap. Makes a lot of sense for the Toronto Blue Jays. But a few other updates here. Obviously the Jays, they're starting a series tonight, and it's going to be against the Detroit Tigers, one of the best teams in the MLB and the best team in the AL. And I want to touch on, before we get into that, Kevin Gausman's start, because, the game yesterday was very interesting. Lost 8-3. Wasn't the best game. But Kevin Gausman says he needs to find a way to be better for the Blue Jays. As for the line drive that hit him, he said he's okay. At the moment, I thought it was coming from a private area. It's great to see him be, feeling okay. His ERA is approaching the fives now, which hopefully he's going to be able to figure this out. Like, this team, the offense is finally starting to come along. There's been jokes and references made about the 2025 offense. If Santander can get it going, maybe you make additions here and there closer to the trade deadline, you're going to be in a very good spot offensively. And I truly believe that this team offensively can get this rocking. However, as it pertains to, right now, keep it rolling, because you have a tough schedule ahead. You are going up against straight teams above 500, just all the way through, no matter what way you dice it. Teams above 500. You have the Detroit Tigers above 500, the Padres above 500, the Rays might be, the Rangers, and of course the Athletics. So it's gonna be a gauntlet. The Jays need to continue to win, and a big series starts tonight against the Detroit Tigers. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know down below what your thoughts are on this trade. Do you think it's a steal, or do you think that he's having a bad season and this will continue? Ultimately, I think he's gonna be, I think he's gonna bounce back. If the Jays can get him for a really low price, according to this report, it could be very interesting. Thank you guys for watching. Cheers.